Hi, this is Ravit Rose, founder of Iru. Super pleased to be here with Jim Lisi, who has a business evaluations company in California, specifically in Santa Barbara. And the reason that we brought him in today is because we want to explore the option of if you're divorcing and you own a company together, let's say husband and wife, mother and father, and you're divorcing, what do you do with the company? How do you evaluate the company? What happens? What's the process? So a lot of people go to their accountant, they might go to their financial advisors, but Jim is here to give us like the pros and cons of working with another specialist versus working with him who is specialized in this. So thank you so much for being here with us, Jim. Maybe you can start off by telling us a little bit about you and your experience and what this company does and how you service individuals.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with SB Valuations. It's my firm. So I'm the chief valuer here, and my wife also works in the business on bookkeeping projects and whatnot. My valuation experience goes back to actually college, where I was trained as an industrial engineer. And the tools that we use in valuation come out of the civil engineering and industrial engineering area way back in the 1930s. So that forms my basis of analysis. I come at it from an engineering standpoint, which is a little different than an accountant or an academic using statistics, people with using public market data. That's a different idea. So a different idea. Um, so I've done valuation work from M&A. It's very simple. And that's one solution to the problem is the simple value that you would get if you sold the business, and you can negotiate around that in divorce. And then there's the more full valuation of what's going on with the owners and whatnot. And that's where I've pioneered in the valuation profession, the actual separation of variables, the things that make a business different between selling it and holding on to it. And it's really two different ideas. It's been clear in literature for 100 years, but it's never been explained. And I was the first guy to explain that. And so I actually have been training other people in the valuation profession in conferences and whatnot on this topic. So this middle ground is called investment value, and that's what the California standards are based on. And with it, we look at how the company is being used by its current owners and the effect of any exit that is going to happen in the divorce. So that's the idea of investment value. And then there's a third value, which is a value that's used in IRS tax matters for estate planning and gifting and those kind of things, but that doesn't really help us in divorce. So my experience was started in actual appraising in 2003, and I was doing this part-time for 9 years under a mentor, and then eventually I went into my own practice in 2013. I then switched to the Mentor Group, which was a firm out of Westlake Village, California, and I worked for them for a couple of years, and then found out that I really didn't need anyone except for myself. I find my own business and work my own projects, and so I went on my own in what was it, about 2020, actually 2019. So yeah, so that's my story for right now. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, no, we can go on to some options. So let's suppose the couple wants to keep the business. What are some of their options versus option two that one wants to buy the other one out? What are some things to consider, some strategies, some do's and don'ts that you would suggest for both of those?
Okay. So in the first situation where both spouses want to remain in the business, it's really important to get a good settlement agreement. And in that case, we're going to probably postpone the valuation until the date of exit. So I'm actually working that exact case right now, where the owners of a construction company One was the operations person and made the business go on the inside, and the other one was the construction person and made the business go on the outside. And the two of them worked together for, I think, like 12 years after the divorce, but now they're getting to retirement age and we need to appraise the business. So we go to the settlement agreement that the judge uh, wrote up, and we get the exact standard of value, and we get the terms and conditions that we use to appraise the value now. And then it'll be a 50-50 split in that case. So the other idea is one person wants to leave right now, and that's the more common idea, right? Somebody gets the house and somebody else gets the business, and how do we make these things work together? Um, and so in that case, we're looking at the value of the business, and then we have to finance the exit. So the exit finance can come from either inside the business if it has enough cash. It could be borrowed, the debt could be borrowed. The cash could come from the marital estate, the larger estate, or it could become a swap, right? A swap of assets. So those particular terms figure out a little bit of an economic adjustment to the value of the business. So it's the value of the business is worth a little less if we're loading the business up with debt and running off with it, and the value of the business worth a little bit more if we have cash in either the business or the estate to make things trade and work out. So
So one of the smartest moves is to make sure to work with you in conjunction with their family lawyer to make sure that the terminologies are written properly in the divorce agreement to ensure that what they are looking to do is written and drafted properly so that their divorce agreement doesn't say the opposite or something contradictory to what they're looking to do eventually. Correct?
correct, because even attorneys, they don't necessarily get the valuation language correct. And so if you just slip the term fair market value into the settlement agreement, you now have this discount idea that's being introduced to the problem, and we have to steer clear of that. And there's some attorneys and some judges that do it very, very well. So, but there's that risk, right? That risk that you're putting the wrong term in there, and then somewhere down the stream, it's not going to be a fair result. Someone's going to lose some arbitrary amount out of the settlement.
And we've seen this happen many times where people think that they wrote out something because they relied on their lawyer who knows the law and knew or said that they knew how to write it out. And then when the time came to actually do some sort of split, it kind of reopened Pandora's box. And all of a sudden, the divorce started all over again. The negotiations started, the legal fees started ramping up. So, my best suggestion is to work with Jim in advance before you sign anything. Make sure that you do it properly from the very beginning, avoid any potential failures or costly mistakes that you'll end up regretting one day. So working in conjunction with other professionals is important. Now, would they also work with a sort of like a divorce trained financial advisor to help them on the budgeting and the finances and the settlement options and all that? Or is that something that you help them with while they're also doing the business split and valuations and all that?
So certainly the overall context is needed, from a CDFA or a wealth planner that knows the goals of the family. And, you have two families here now. So I will consult and advise, and usually I'm in there for just a portion of all the work that needs to be done in settling goals. But yeah, there are tax ramifications in addition to the split that come into all of this. But first, you need the numbers. So I'm in there more earlier, giving the numbers so that you can take it to the next steps. And sometimes I'm brought into mediations, so where I sit in the room with both spouses and a mediator, and they say, well, what happens if this happens? And what happens if that happens? And, this business is going to be doing X, and why isn't I getting value for that? So I can answer those questions in real time if needed.
So that's actually a great strategy. So you could work with, let's say you have a business, work with Jim, get some numbers, work with a CDFA, which we could refer you to as well in California in your particular county. And that's really to look at your whole individual personal picture, the financials, the pension, the quadros, this, that, all the details of all of that, also tax implications. And then you take all of this information to your lawyer or your mediator. Hopefully you're settling out of court, and then you can say to your lawyer, this is what we're looking to do. Can you draft this for us? And then you'll have the proper language in there. You'll have the proper knowledge. Everybody is on the same page. Full transparency for everyone, which means less possibility to regret decisions later, which is the most valuable and will cost you the least amount of chaos and money, lost monies in legal fees and all the extras that come with it. So if you are anywhere in your divorce process in California, doesn't matter whether you're contemplating divorce, you haven't started yet, whether you're separated and you already started, or maybe your agreement is done and there's parts of the conversation that have not been taken place yet regarding the business, please feel free to reach out to Jim. I'm sure he'd be delighted to provide you a consultation to see if and how he can help you. So thank you so much for being here, Jim. Thank you for all this wise advice. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for watching. Until the next time we speak, I wish you all a day that matters. Take care, everyone.